And we want to welcome Tina Wells, who is both a CEO, founder, and an author. Thank you so much for being here. Tina is CEO of Buzz Marketing Group, and she's also written 2 books. Both sound very interesting. A popular tween series, Mackenzie Blue, as well as a book on how to market to millennials. That's part of what we're going to talk about, called Chasing Youth Culture and Getting It Right. Also, we want to say hi to Kate O'Neill. Welcome, Kate.
Hi, thank
Head
you.
of Social Media Strategy and Account Director at the PR part of Tierney Communications, one of our area's big marketing communications companies. Welcome to both of you. So let's start with you, Tina. You wrote a book about how to target millennials, how to sell them your product and give them what they want. What do they want?
I think that they want brands to be transparent. I think that the 2 main things that matter today are transparency and value. I think that millennials have gotten a bad rap for being cheap. I don't think they're cheap at all. When you look at luxury brands that are doing higher volume sales, you also have to look at brands like Michael Kors, for example, that sales are up 80% quarter over quarter. Millennial shoppers are really contributing to that, but their product is seen as a luxury product that's now at a better price point. So I think that value proposition is important. And when we talk about social media and access to so much data, brands being transparent about what they're about and really engaging with millennial consumers, in a way that really makes sense, I think is most important today.
And speaking of which, obviously digital must be very important to them. Is it supremely important?
I always say that digital is the language that millennials speak. I think it's the most important thing to really understand integration. It doesn't mean that TV or print or other forms of media aren't important. It just means that really we're talking about a generation of digital natives. This is what they're used to. So, for example, images, right? So Instagram, being an Instagram generation means that good quality, beautiful imagery is really important. So even if it's in a print ad or even if it's in a TV commercial, we're talking about a maker's generation. They're used to things being authentic and really want and love beautifully made things. So that extends to all kinds of communications, I think.
All right, so better quality actually. All right, Kate, let's talk about the digital world and social media, areas that you're an expert at as well. Is this a growing field as far as what you can tell, and also are businesses asking for more information and giving more attention to this area?
I would say growing is an understatement. We've seen across disciplines, whether you're a highly regulated financial industry or a very consumer-facing brand, as Tina was describing, social is just exploding. It's the access channel of preference for young folks, old folks, depending on the channel. Everybody loves to be able to reach out to a brand immediately and quickly and get a response on their timetable. So no matter the industry, social's just booming across the board.
One over the other, Facebook over Twitter or Instagram?
It depends on who you're talking to.
Okay.
There's the younger audience who loves a Snapchat, highly visual mediums like Instagram, and then there's certainly folks who are the baby boomer generation that just make up, I think, over 50% of the Facebook population. So it's about knowing who you're talking to and where to talk to them.
Absolutely. Tina, you're the CEO of Buzz Marketing Group. What exactly does digital add that businesses didn't get before? How are we reaching other audiences in a different way?
I think historically, when we think about communications, it was what I like to call the megaphone. Brands kind of got out their message and they spoke to consumers, but there was really no interaction. And I think digital really provides this equal playing field where consumers can actually engage with brands they like and give their opinion and get real-time feedback. I think we really have to give credit to a lot of marketing executives that really want to empower their consumers and want their voice in their business and have really created opportunities for this dialogue. One example is Gap changed their logo a few years ago. Consumers didn't really like it. They changed it back. So really seeing this interaction of marketing executives and just companies with their core consumers, I think, is something that's completely been created because of digital.
Well, how specifically can women in business get in on this act if they are not that social media savvy? Can they get a little footprint going or blueprint for their business going forward?
Yeah, I think I'm obsessed with this company. I hope I say the name right, Dolly Wally Doodle, I think I'm saying it wrong, but it's a mom who started making outfits and posting them on Facebook, who's now grown this enormous company and employing so many people. And so I think a lot of times digital is scary. You think you have to do everything right. And I think really what it's about is saying, what channels make sense for my business? It could be that Facebook makes sense for you. She was targeting moms in a way that made sense. There are really cool, hip, street, kind of skater-esque brands that are using Snapchat with instant coupons, and that works for them. They're a little more kind of extreme. I would not caution some of my clients to go on Snapchat as a medium that works for them. And so, there are other, think fashion beauty brands where Instagram and just showing really pretty photos every day, or customers, what's in your bag type of thing that works for. So, I think there's no one strategy that works across the board. You really have to take time to see what channels make the most sense for your business.
So is it really just trial and error then? Because a lot of companies won't know what makes sense for them and how to maximize it without being plugged in 24/7 and just constantly grinding out until they get lucky and hit on the right formula.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, one of the greatest benefits to social media is access to facts and numbers and analytics that help drive a strategy that leads you in the direction to target your audience. So we can look at tools that say this particular target segment is most active on this channel. So you can be proactive and strategic about plotting out what messages go where and when. So it's definitely no longer just throwing paint against the wall and hoping it sticks. It's very strategic at this point, which is one of the reasons the business is growing.
And to get a good overview, do you need a month, 6 months of trying to have this dialogue in multiple places?
If you were just beginning to launch a brand and really looking to make a splash in the social space, there could be a long discovery period of up to 6 months, 3 months, where you're really looking at your target segments, doing a lot of research, talking with stakeholders, looking at the numbers, and even listening to conversations on social. So sometimes we'll say to clients, this is the way you're talking about your brand, but guess what? This is what other people are saying about your brand on social, and using that to inform and drive strategy. So it depends, but it takes a long time. It's more strategic than people think.
Okay. And for both of you, obviously you can plug in 24/7 every single day and never have a moment to yourself. If you wanted to wake up and see how your Facebook page is doing or your Twitter account, whatever, it's always there. How do you manage that as a small business person or a medium-sized business person? How do you two unplug?
Oh goodness, I think you make a great point that you have to really, be conscious of it. And I really, I engage with media, all times of the day, but I think I also put limits on it. There's certain activities where, you don't really need to be engaging in social media. There are other things though that I think social has made a lot more fun. Watching Grey's Anatomy on private, all these great shows, and Scandal on Thursday is a lot more exciting if you're tweeting too, So I think that it's really saying, okay, there's some activities that are just better enjoyed, just being in the moment and being present. And I actually have to tell you, I think millennials have a better handle on that than we do. They've known their whole life with all of these different digital tools. And I almost liken it to imagine our parents or grandparents who got introduced to TV and maybe became TV obsessed. We've always had TV. So TV is something that's there and it's awesome and it's great, but we know when to engage and when not to. And I think that millennials are a great example of how to engage with social media, how to, Blackberries and yoga kind of thing. I don't know that I think that's a millennial thing. I think they know, take a breather, go really have this experience and enjoy this experience. So I take a lot of my cues there.
And how do you unplug?
Yeah, so in my industry, it's all about really building a team. So for me, so much of what we do is managing the social media presence for a lot of big brands. So that's not a one-person job.
Right.
So establishing a strategy and team building and empowering those around you to be decision makers lets you step back in areas where you need to take some moments for yourself. So I also say it's about knowing whenever your prime time is. So if I'm on in the morning and that's when I'm at my best, I'm going to be there for my clients in that time. And then, establish a framework for which my team can kind of step in a little bit later. And it's all about working together and not trying to own it all yourself. Because if you try to own it all yourself, it's not going to happen.
And speaking of which, if you find out when your audience, the target group you're looking for, is mostly on these different sites, if you're always available, doesn't it dilute the sort of magic or the specialness of what you're trying to offer in a way?
Well, I think you can build a rapport with your consumers where you establish an expectation of response time. So it's about setting clear instructions. We're here for you between the hours of 8 and noon, or we're going to respond to you during the hours of 9 and 12. And letting folks know people are reasonable, they have lives too. They just want that acknowledgement of their response to you and then an available window to interact with you down the road. So it's about just being upfront, honest, and transparent.
Okay, and what will you both be doing at the conference? Let's start with you, Tina.
I'm going to be doing a social media roundtable, so I'm really excited to talk with small business owners about how they can really use social media as a tool to grow their business.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm also going to be leading a social media roundtable. So I look forward to answering the tough questions and talking to folks about their challenges with social media. That's where I draw a lot of inspiration, is hearing about the new ways people are innovating with the platforms and hopefully providing some insight into ways they can streamline their efforts and be productive on the channels.
And as we all go forward, I think it's fair to say there will be mistakes and you can't really take them back in the social world. Should people just realize going in, we're all learning here, and just take a deep breath and not worry about it? Is that the best strategy, Tina?
You know, that's the one thing that's great about digital. It's there for a second and it's gone, you know, and I think, again, that's where transparency comes in. We made a mistake. Sorry about that. We're going to correct it, and it's going to be better next time. You know, I think own it and get over it as quickly as you can.
All right, thank you so much, both of you. Kate, Tina, we appreciate your time, and thank you.